Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening as we're going to be talking about the brand new evolution of Dreamcast Online that just came over to the Flycast Emulator called DCNet. And honestly, one of the biggest features of Dreamcast back in the day that I feel like not many people actually used was its online play support. Obviously, online gameplay would become a huge thing in the Xbox generation, and Microsoft basically created the blueprint on how to play games online, but Sega got started with a 56.6 modem built into every single Dreamcast and even a broadband adapter if you wanted one. And honestly, now you can still get the Dreamcast online, whether it's physical hardware or software emulation, but it definitely is cumbersome, it's involved, and you need to have a basic understanding of networking. But now we have DCNet, and that's going to provide its own service to get Flycast online and playing online games. That's going to be so much easier than everything that's come before, and that is awesome because it just makes things easier to enjoy Dreamcast. And well, trust me, I absolutely love my real hardware, and playing a Dreamcast game online in 2025 with the Dreamcast sitting in front of you is an absolute trip. It is one of the more complicated things you're going to do in gaming, and if you just want to get some online matches in, I definitely recommend going over to DCNet. But before I get too much further into the explanation, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, you got a Patreon link down below as well. What you're watching right now is Ferrari F355 challenge being played on Flycast, being played online against other people, other places in the world. Big thanks to the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pup, for grabbing this footage for me. He had it set up and sent over some races. And again, this is the type of stuff that you could do back in the day with that dial-up modem or with a broadband adapter that is just so much more difficult to do today. But I know what you're asking, what is DCNet? It's basically a cloud online service that is going to take care of all of the online configuration for you. Before, in emulation, you needed to do port forwarding configurations in your router, and if you knew how to do that, you would realize it is a very tricky thing. And right now, with a lot of lease modems out there, honestly, they don't let you get deep enough into the configuration to even do it in the first place. I know a lot of people just lease their router and modem from their ISP, and trying to get into any of the deep settings is an absolute impossibility. That's why I keep my own hardware around so I can configure it the way I want to. And you'll see here now with DCNet, you're in a network race. There's 2 entries about ready to compete, and you're just basically off to the races, pun incredibly intended. And that is just absolutely epic because, again, I know a lot of people out there would love to play Dreamcast online in 2025. They just either don't want to go out and buy all the hardware for their Dreamcast, or they're not comfortable setting it up. And when it comes to the emulation side of things, all of the port forwarding can give you a bunch of headaches. Remember back in the day when you're just trying to play Duke Nukem 3D online with your friends, and you'd basically fail a connection 10 or 12 times until you actually felt like you got lucky enough to get the connection active? That's what it would feel like trying to do this with Dreamcast in 2024 and 2025. And that is not a knock on the previous systems we had. It's just as time goes on, things evolve, and now we have DCNet, which basically does all of the work for you, so you can just jump into a game and start enjoying it without having to think about all of the setup. And removing barriers between people and their gameplay fun is all I ever want on the channel. And you'll see here all of the data is coming through from the races, and then you can watch the replay in real time to see what driver did what. And I'd also say Ferrari F355 challenge, definitely a great online game, even if personally I always suck at the title. It is just so sibby. It's one of those games I've never been 100% good at, even though I always try to get better. I just love Sega arcade racing a little bit more. And the best part is setting this up is incredibly easy. If you go download the newest test build of Flycast and you go into the settings and under network, you're going to see a new checkbox here, use DCNet experimental. That's all you need to do to actually make this active. From there, all you need to do is change the username and password in the configuration, and you will be online. And they give you this information over on their GitHub page, and I will link it down below as well. If you want to see a full setup guide, let me know. This is more just a showcase and news episode, but do be aware that you need to download the most recent unstable nightly build of Flycast to actually be able to get this feature. And if you're not sure whether or not you're on the stable or unstable branch, if you pop over to the download site, you're going to see recent builds, and there's going to be a master and a dev branch. Dev is basically the test cores. You want to grab the most recent test or dev version of the core for whatever operating system you want. For me, it's Windows x64, and then from there you'll be able to access that DCNet tab. The only other thing you need to do is change the ISP info stored in the emulated Dreamcast flash. The user should be Flycast 1 or Flycast 2, and the password is going to be password, pretty typical there. And if you go through the directions on GitHub and load up one of the compatible games, you're going to be able to find another player if they're available and just enjoy some Dreamcast online. Now, of course, like any lobby, you're going to have to hope that people are out there, and for the most part, I'm sure this is going to be people connecting to their friends, telling them, hey, I'm jumping online, do you want to get a match in? And them saying yes. And this isn't going to be compatible with every single online game out there, but I'm sure the list will grow as time goes on. And again, it is possible to do this on real hardware as well, but it takes a ton of accessories. I've done this before. It took me about 5 hours to set up. By the time I was done doing it, I wasn't interested in playing Dreamcast online anymore. And again, that is not a knock at the absolute technological innovations it takes to be able to connect things like Dreamcast real hardware online in a modern era. It's just one of those items. It always takes so long to get it going. I never actually feel like playing when I'm done. But using something like Flycast and jumping into DCNet, it takes that time down to basically just finding a match and then going ahead and playing the game. And of course, with the internet today and emulation, you're going to get all of the upscaling, you're going to get all of the fast internet access, all of the things that weren't available back in 1999 or 2000 when you'd actually be playing these games online. And that is the best part. You get all of the creature comforts and quality of life improvements of something like Flycast, along with the quality of life improvements of modern networking without having to worry about port forwarding or trying to configure that network perfectly. And you just get to have fun with the game. And I will show you the games that work with this as well, because there's a ton of fun ones out there. If we take a look at the currently supported games, they're right here. You're going to be able to play stuff like Phantasy Star Online, where there's other ways to play that for sure though. Quake 3, but Choo Choo Rocket may be one of the most fun online games for the Dreamcast. It's absolute chaos. It's the type of game that absolutely works so well with online multiplayer support versus just playing against the CPU, and it works perfectly in DCNet. This is footage captured directly from Flycast, where it is connecting online to a second player, and everything seems to be absolutely blazingly fast. No latency in any of the controls or connection. Sometimes back in the day you would see your arrow cursor lag a little bit until it had sent that command over the dial-up, but today on broadband, obviously that's not the case. And even though this is an online networking video, the soundtrack's amazing, so listen for 40 seconds and I'll be right back. I mean, honestly, that's the perfect music for a game like Choo Choo Rocket, and it's also the type of game, sure, you can do local multiplayer, and it's a ton of fun sitting in the room with your friends reacting to what's going on, but you don't always have friends over at your house, and if you feel like getting a game of Choo Choo Rocket in, now with DCNet, all you need to do is turn the game on and look for a match. This kind of feels like a modern era Dreamcast, but released in 2024 2025, with the ability to play online like you would on any other console without having to deal with all of the setup hassle. And there's other games as well, like DD Planet here, technically a game that never released. The prototype came out maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was basically a finished version of the game, and that even works on DCNet, which is absolutely fun to see. A game that never released in the lifespan of the Dreamcast, that was meant as an online experience, you can now play on DCNet without any configuration whatsoever, and trust me, it's the most simple game in the world, but once you actually get into it and you play with friends, it becomes super addicting and a ton of fun. And that is all done just with Flycast new innovation on DCNet, and I love to see stuff like this because it allows people to have more fun with games they know, love, and remember, while reducing down the barrier of entry. Because when I say stuff like port forwarding, maybe only 3 out of 10 of you would even know where to go on your router to change that setting, and maybe only 5 out of 10 of you that knew how to do it would have a router that would even allow you to get into the configuration deep enough to be able to actually do all of that. And that is the great thing about emulation and just modern developments in old retro gaming consoles and games. We can make it easier here for people to just have fun, because at the end of the day, the only reason I talk about video games, the only reason you play video games is because we found them fun back in the day and still do, and any obstructions between your intent of having fun and actually being able to do it aren't good for the hobby. So stuff like DCNet is a welcome addition. I can't wait to see how it progresses. If you want a full tutorial, leave me a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. But go grab the most recent dev version of Flycast, go online, start playing and have fun. But I'll see you next time. Bye bye.